Our third speaker is Professor Rory Duncan. Professor Duncan, or Rory, is the Director of Talent and Skills at UKRI, which is a position he's held since 2019. He is, as part of this role, he coordinates the talent and skills associated with the 7 research councils of the UKRI, Innovate UK and Research England, which includes overviewing the skills and talent associated with doctoral training, technical skills, and all the fellowships which are offered. Rory, over to you.
Thanks, Phil. Good evening, everyone, and thanks also to Danny and Kate for really great talks, I thought. Really interesting. Slight change of gear now. I'm going to talk about research careers. I've got a few slides just to share with you. So I, as has been said, I work for a large organization called UKRI, UK Research and Innovation, as Director of Talent and Skills. UKRI is the large public funder of research and innovation in the UK. So we allocate and steward the research system. We allocate funding from the taxpayer and steward the research system in the UK, which is very substantial. And the UK, really very small island, obviously, is truly a world leader in research and innovation and has been for a very long time. UKRI was formed in 2018, so it's a relatively young organization, and it brought together 7 so-called research councils. Research councils still do actually, used to stand alone, but have now been brought together. They in turn allocate the funding to different disciplinary areas. So that spans everything actually, from arts and humanities to quantum physics. I'm very fortunate to have this job. I find it truly fascinating, and I'm just going to spin through a few slides now with some numbers so you can perhaps understand why the UK is so good at what we do. And also, I hope, begin to articulate routes into research careers for those who are interested in it. So just in terms of numbers, there's some very big numbers at work here. The total budget for UKRI, given by the government in turn with taxpayers' money, annually is about £8 billion. So it's a really huge sum of money and an enormous responsibility to allocate this efficiently and effectively. My area is really around supporting people, and we do this in a whole bunch of different ways. You can see a load of different very big numbers here. It's probably more interesting just to think about numbers of people in this. So in, for example, PhD students, we support something like between 25 and 28,000 PhD students in total. A PhD on average takes between 3.5 and 4 years. And in total in the UK, there's something like 100,000 PhD students. And that means that the UK is the 3rd largest trainer of PhD students in the world, which is, I think, pretty remarkable. PhD students in the UK are generally paid a stipend, which is about £15,000 a year tax-free. And if you're funded by UKRI, that comes from the taxpayer. So if you're keeping up with this, about a quarter or so of all the PhD students in the UK are supported by UKRI and the taxpayer. Over the last decade or so, the way that PhD students are trained has changed fairly radically, away from a kind of lone apprentice model, where a PhD student may have been working with an academic supervisor and doing their research, towards much more what we would call a cohort model. So we give sums of money, large sums of money, to universities to train students in particular subject areas, so for example, physics. And in this case, the universities also provide additional skills training. And this is really, really important. This is something that I'm going to come back to. You can see here that we also support large numbers of other people. So what we try to do is to allocate funding and create a form of research career structure so that people can continue to progress. And I'll touch upon this in the next slide. So Katharine in her talk, I actually took some notes during the last two talks. So Katharine in her talk used the term complex landscape. And when I first came into this role, I asked a colleague to try to map the various career routes into research and innovation in the UK. And Danny's been talking about the stuff in the green box here, apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, and so on. And Katharine, Kate has been talking more or less about the straight line along the middle leading into this yellow box. This yellow box is research happening in universities. And it looks pretty linear, so it is a straight line along the middle of this diagram. And there are lots of different routes in, and this is really what I want to talk about. The other thing I want to talk about is that there's a huge diversity of careers that people can enter into with a PhD or with any research qualification. And these exist all over the place, so not only in universities, but in the private sector, of course. Danny's got a really good example of that, but also in the third sector, various parts of government, and so on. There's a huge amount of research going on. And I think it's really worthwhile just having a very short pause for thought at this stage and asking ourselves, why does the government prioritize such an enormous sum of money to support research and innovation in the country? And why does the government, in turn, expect very large numbers of people with this, supported with this taxpayers' funding, to progress through research? And the answer is that research benefits us all. So the new knowledge created through research and then the translation of that knowledge into something useful for economies or societies is really essential to us all. And there are lots and lots of examples of this. Not least, in the last year, research and innovation has been played out in real time on the news every night, and a truly remarkable achievement in finding a vaccine, in developing a vaccine for a new virus in the period of about 12 months, and then using engineering and so on to manufacture that virus en masse, and then logistics and everything else to deliver the vaccine to more than 10 million people in the last few months. And I think that's truly remarkable. And this is why this is such an important investment for the taxpayer and why politicians and governments are so keen on it. And the work that we do spans all disciplines, and I think that's really important. One thing I would just like to draw your attention to here are all these lines connecting everything here. The research and innovation system in the UK and the world is amazingly complicated, in some parts very well connected, and in some parts less well connected. And one of my principal interests in my current job is widening participation in research and trying to widen participation and increase diversity in the types of people who are doing research. And I'm particularly interested into routes into research careers, so routes into PhDs, for example. And I'm just going to move to my final slide. There are a huge number of different types of roles available in research. And I touched earlier on the way that PhD students generally are being trained now as part of a cohort with a focus on skills development. And this is a shift away from a very tight focus on a very specific research topic, for example, and ensuring that people are upskilled and trained in lots of different ways. And this includes things like public engagement, something that I'm especially keen on, comm skills, how to give presentations, data analysis, and so on and so on. And the aim of this is to ensure that people are able to have diverse and dynamic careers. And I think something which is of real note right now is that the days of somebody joining an organization at age 20, say, for example, and staying there for a very, very long time in a single organization until they retire, so having a lifelong career, has changed. And not only will people probably have to have lots of different careers in their working life, but I think younger people generally are growing up with the expectation that they'll have different careers. And that takes me, I think, to my final point, which is learning and training isn't a one-off that starts at one end of a pipeline or a life, if you like, but instead I'm especially interested in how lifelong learning can be enhanced, and that is again part of widening participation. So this slide shows the kind of old model in the center here, which is the lone genius scientist. This is a slide that's used quite often in UKRI now. This is outmoded, it's not real. Nobody can make really important discoveries in isolation, but instead everyone has to work in a network. And there are a whole bunch of other people who are involved in any type of research. And all of these people are tremendously skilled and enormously valued. So I'm going to stop there. I'd be very happy to take questions, and I'm very much looking forward to our Q&A session. Thanks very much.